Hi there. Welcome to the Sober Circle channel. Enjoy this speaker tape.
My name is Hillary Draper, and I am a grateful recovering alcoholic. Good evening. A member of the noble group at Cullman, Alabama. Before I forget my manners, I want to thank Joe and the committee, whoever had a part in inviting me to come and help you celebrate the 12th anniversary of this club. It's a delight for me to be in any AA group, and particularly in this group, taking personal reasons, and surely to be in the same program with that Indian lady, Ramona, who spoke to you last night. I used to stand up and say, my name is Father Hillary, and I am a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. But about a year ago, one of my sponsors got a hold of me and said, there you are. Going around the country, standing up and saying, your name is Father Hillary, like you something. If you ain't nothing but a drunk, you better stand up and say, your name is Hillary Draper, and you are grateful. I thought that over, and I came to the conclusion that he is absolutely correct. That my name is Hillary Draper, and I am a drunk, a grateful, recovering alcoholic. It is only because of a higher power whom I choose lovingly to call God, and to whom AA reintroduced to me, and trying to practice the principles of this marvelous program a day at a time in my life with the help of many people like y'all, the Hillary Draper, the drunk, is able to take on the role of Father Hillary Draper, the priest and the professor. And for that I will be everlastingly grateful. I didn't know what alcoholism is or was. I know that the big book says that it's a mental obsession coupled with a physical compulsion to drink. In my own book, I've decided that what an alcoholic is a man or a woman of whatever age or persuasion who drinks and gets in trouble because he drinks, and drinks and gets in trouble because she drinks, and drinks and gets in trouble because she drinks, and drinks. You can get in trouble for other things besides drinking. But if I got into as much trouble in the last 3 years of my drinking from eating watermelon, I'd have quit eating watermelon a long time. And then I used to wonder, what am I doing an alcoholic? Me, of all people, with my fine background, my aristocratic family connections, an eminent divine, brilliant scholar. What am I doing an alcoholic? I used to worry about that. That's the truth. And I remember I'd been in the program about 2 years, and on a Friday night meeting closed in Cullman, I'm sitting around the table, and I said, now listen, I just want to know, I'm tired of this. I want to know why I'm an alcoholic. Well, you know the silence that descends on your group, and everybody knows the answer. They wait to see who's going to zap you. That silence came over the group, and finally Juby says, well, Father, it don't make no difference how the jackass got into the ditch. Just get him out. And ladies and gentlemen, there is the beautiful wisdom of this program. It doesn't make a bit of difference how Hillary Draper got into the ditch. Just get him out. And this blessed program has let this jackass out of the ditch today. And for that I'll be everlastingly grateful. Some of you all have heard me before, and well, you know, in AA, why do we keep coming to hear the same old stories? If you stay in AA, and if you need it, you ought to stay there. I think they should have told you that your presence here today doesn't necessarily mean that you're an alcoholic. You know, you might just be interested in the problem. You might be a real bona fide Al-Anon. Or some of them said, well, you know, Father, I'm not that bad. Let's see. How bad you want to get? As if you could be a little bit alcoholic. You can't be no more a little bit alcoholic, you can be a little bit pregnant. You either are or you ain't, one of the two. No in between. But your presence here doesn't necessarily mean that you're an alcoholic. This is an open meeting. But if you come to these meetings, you're going to hear the same stories over and over. You think, gee, why do we... But, you know, I think that AA demands a kind of childlike faith and trust. I didn't say childish. I believe that when I was a practicing alcoholic, I was childish. But you know how little children are? You tell them the story, the three bears or whatever it is, and next week they'll say, tell me that story about the three bears. And you stop to tell him. And you don't tell it the same way. They say, no, it doesn't go that way. And they'll listen to it 1,000 times as long as it has a happy ending. And I think AAs are something like that. We'll listen to an AA story as long as it has a happy ending. And thank God my story today still has a happy ending today. But I remember one time I was in Mobile, that's my hometown. This was years ago, and I was given the keynote address for the Diocesan Council of Catholic Women Convention in my own hometown. And after the Madam President got up to introduce me, she closed her introduction with these words. She said, now, some of us have heard Father Hilary before, and some of us have not, and those of us who have not are looking forward to hearing him now. I'd like to say that I was born at a very early age in a good Christian home. But I've heard so many alcoholics say that I'm not sure that's any way to raise children anymore. At any rate, I was born at a very early age in a good Christian home, and that home was Catholic in Mobile, Alabama, and we did not think it was morally wrong to drink in moderation. Now, make no mistake about it. We Catholics think it is seriously morally wrong to get drunk, just as the Baptists and some of the Methodists do. But we did not think that to drink in moderation was morally wrong. And if you ask me when I had my first drink, I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you. The onlyest one I know that got a drink earlier than I did was that Jewish dentist over in Dallas, and they give it to the babies when they circumcise them. But it was always in our home. The kids, I can remember very well. You'd get a little glass, maybe that much wine in it, and that much cold water. It was a sign of rejoicing. It was a sign company was there. It was connected with everything good that happened. I have to say that I did see some drunkenness in my family. I came from a great big family. I had 7 aunts and a couple of adopted ones. They had their own population explosion. The last time I could count it, I got 60 first cousins running around Mobile. And whenever that tribe would get together for weddings or funerals, there was one, called him Uncle Harry, who was kind of the head of the pack. And Uncle Harry would always be taking a few more drinks to steady his nerves before he faced them. The only thing is, he'd get so steady he couldn't move. And the older uncles would have to carry him home. But again, something good. I can remember my mother saying to us kids after that, she'd say, well, y'all saw Uncle Harry last night. And if you discover that that's what alcohol does for you, you just shouldn't drink. But you saw the rest of your uncles and aunts, perfect ladies and gentlemen. So if it could be said of anybody that had a marvelous introduction of how to drink like a gentleman, it should have been me. Really. In high school, I had no trouble. The big book says I'm supposed to try to stand up here and say what I was like, what happened, and what I am like today, or what I'm trying to be like today. So years, I thought the big book said what it was like, what happened, and what it is like today. It doesn't say that. And I can put in a nutshell what I was like. I was always wanting to be something that I wasn't. Why that should be, I don't know, because I was born in a home which was filled with tender, loving care. I was not born backwards. Nobody hated me. The hugging and the kissing which you see in AA is perfectly natural to me. We were an awful hugging and kissing family. You didn't go to the grocery store that you didn't kiss everybody in sight. You didn't go out to play that you didn't kiss everybody in sight. That's just the way it was in my family. But for some reason, I always wanted to be something I wasn't. I was not a tremendous athlete. I wanted to be an athlete. I wasn't a really good musician. I blew a horn. I don't know. I was the kind of person that if the train missed me by a half block, by the time I told you the story, it would be 2 feet. I was a prepared coward and an artistic liar. And you know, I still have trouble with those two things, even in AA. Sometimes I think I'm a prepared liar and an artistic coward. I don't know which. Even though I don't have anything to hide today, you know, I'd rather lie than tell the truth. I don't know why that is. I just don't know why. I have to catch myself all the time telling another lie. Why? You got no reason to lie now. When you're drinking, yeah. But anyway, that's in a nutshell. I don't have any trouble with drink until I get to Cullman, Alabama. I was in third year high school. My father was dead. My mother thought I needed some more men in my education. Went to Cullman, had a great time. Got in with the people in Cullman, my classmates' families, and in those years, the 30s, oh boy, that's a long time ago, isn't it? Every housewife worth the name knew how to squeeze the grape and make that German-type grape juice, only they did it with strawberries. And if y'all haven't tasted Cullman County strawberry wine before you got in AA, it's just too late. You have to wait to get to heaven. The most beautiful color you ever saw in your life. An aroma, a bouquet that wouldn't quit, and a kick like a mule. But again, it was marvelous. You just had a small glass piece of cake in somebody's home. Yeah, there were kids I knew who drank too much beer, but I wasn't one of those. In 41, I came to love the monks so much, I really did, that I wanted to be part and parcel of them. I asked if I could join the monastery, and they said I could try. Then I got in the monastery. You know what I discovered? That the monks were not about to be outdone by the housewives of Cullman. And they also knew how to squeeze that grape and make that German-type grape juice. And they made a little homebrew on the side. Now, I wouldn't want you to think there's 60 drunk monks at Cullman. There's not. There's me. The rest of them pretty normal, lovely people. But looking back, I can see already this alcoholic personality. It meant more to me. The monks didn't drink every day. On big feast days, an hour after Vespers, uniquely tight, the kind of thing you come together, and homemade wine, homebrew, pink lemonade for the panty waists. But I was always the first one there and the last one to leave. Years later, when people were trying to help me put myself back together, said to me, "How much did you drink?" How much did you drink, Father Henry? Well, I'm trying to get honest. And I guess I have to say that from the time I was 17 and a half years old, I always drank as much as I could, as often as I could, as long as I could, whenever there was anything to drink. It was that simple. I never knew when you took the cork out of the bottle or unscrewed the cap, you would do anything with that but throw it away. Because if I was there, you surely wouldn't need it again. That's the truth. And I know now that that's not, quote, normal, quote, drinking. But that's the way it was for me. You didn't get it all the time. It might be going out of fashion, so, you know. Oh, dear. And blackouts. You know what a blackout is? Some of you may not know what a blackout is. I'll explain it to you. You drink and drink and drink and drink and drink. And in order to keep itself alive, the body will short circuit, and you will go unconscious, and you will slide under the table, where you will remain until the next morning, or somebody helps you home. That's not blacking out. That's passing out. and I've done that too. But blacking out, you drink and drink and drink and drink, and again the body, in order to preserve its own life, short-circuits something. It's temporary amnesia. We don't slide under the table. We continue to perform. We may even do the Mexican hat dance on top of the grand piano. And the next morning, people will say, I never knew you could dance so well. And you say, oh. And until they show you a picture of yourself on top of the piano, you have no memory whatsoever that that was part of your activity the night before. Well, 1941, I'm in the monastery. It's Christmas time. We're having a party, and guess what? I got a blackout. A monk, placed here in the monastery. The next morning, I wake up and I go to prayers. I'm strong, healthy, but I think, something happened last night. 8:30, that party didn't get old. 11 o'clock, what happened after 8:30? I don't know. But if you're like me, you know what happened. I began to slip around and try to find out what did happen. And I found out apparently that nothing happened. That I stayed at the party, had a great time, cleaned up the dishes, helped bring the stuff back to the kitchen, helped the old fathers to the chapel, said my prayers, and went to bed. But there's 2.5, 3 hours I have absolutely no recollection of. Being a smart kid, I had to decide, what's wrong. I think, I really do, looking back, that I knew even then that alcohol had something to do with it. But I wasn't about to admit that, because I loved everything there was about alcohol. I've heard people say they couldn't stand the taste of it. I love the taste of it. I'm the kind that used to roll it around your mouth, swallow it slow, and suck your teeth after you. I'm sorry if that disturbs you, but that's the way it was with me. I don't care what it was. I just love the taste. Oh. But I don't discuss this with anybody. I think if I could have said 18, 17 and a half, 18 years old, if I could have said to somebody who was knowledgeable what I just told you, that person might have been able to say to me, hey kid, what you've just described is almost a Satan sign that you got it. You're one of these people that's crossed that invisible line between controlled and uncontrolled drinking. And you will never be able to handle alcohol. You'll never be able. I sometimes wonder if I could have been spared the agonies that were to come. I don't know, and I don't worry about it anymore. But again, being an intelligent kid, I had to account for it in my own mind. What happened last night? You know what I decided? It was the cheese. I hadn't been comfortable eating cheese until I got into AA. We're sent to Kansas to study, another monastery. Those monks belong to the WCTU. They haven't got a wine cellar, they haven't got a brewery, they don't make it, and they don't drink it. Want to bet? I never was a bar drinker. If I had to classify myself as a drinker, it would have to be as a chicken house drinker. That's where they kept it in Kansas. And there's a lot more going on in the chicken houses of North Alabama than just laying eggs, I'll tell you. But there again, the pattern was building. Drink it whenever you can get it, as long as you can get it, as much as you can get. It was not accepted out there. I have to say this is a progressive disease. It gets worse. For a long time, it looks like it's getting better. But in reality, it's getting worse if you're an alcoholic. 4 years, we went back to study theology at Cullman. Had a new abbot. Guess what? He's closed up the wine cellar. It's no more the accepted thing to drink at Cullman. Therefore, the monks at Cullman are not drinking. Not a bit. I would say some monks at Cullman are not drinking. Mention the Al-Anons. When did you become successful in drying up your alcoholic husband? That's a lost cause if ever I saw one, period. But now it's not the accepted thing. It has to be done in secret. But I drink, same old pattern, as often as I can. 71, I was ordained a priest. Believe me, if Archbishop Cullman of happy memory had any idea that Hilary Draper was an alcoholic, he would not have ordained him a priest. The Catholic Church has got enough trouble without ordaining drunk monks. And the opportunities for practicing were greater after that. I was associate principal of the high school, and You know, what are you going to give a priest for a present? Christmas, Easter, birthday. Well, what are you going to give him? One fountain pen. You only use one fountain pen. And if you discover that Father enjoys a drink, it's solved. Whenever the occasion demands a present, you can give him a nice bottle of bourbon or whatever. And if you let people know that that's really what you appreciate, you can lay in quite a store for feast days and holidays and whatever. People always say to me, where'd you get it? I says, I don't know, and I'm not going to tell you, even if I did know. But I always had it. Sometimes it's hard to get. You ever know an alcoholic who couldn't get it? I never did. You think you got it all locked up. There he is, drunk again. You say, where the hell did he get it? I don't know. He got it somewhere. But you know what was happening? This disease is progressive, and it affects us. We know this. The totality of the human personality. It affects us spiritually, mentally and emotionally, physically. We begin to come apart. I didn't realize I had any trouble with alcohol, but what I do have trouble with is the boss. The abbot and I, we're having these terrible personality conflicts. Now, I know you can have personality conflicts. I think they can be resolved if there's goodwill on both sides. But if alcohol's in the picture, you're not going to resolve anything. And alcohol's in the picture. I'm convinced that the man knew it. But have you ever tried to face an alcoholic? I mean, I'm talking about going on a 12th step. When we go on a 12th step, we tell our story. We don't call anybody else an alcoholic. But have you ever, in your ignorance, faced an alcoholic? And say, you drinking too much. Man, if the boss had done that to me, I'd have been on him like a bee on a bulldog. I'd have said to him, what you talking about, I'm drinking too much? I haven't missed a day's class in 4 years. I'm in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning. Maybe I drink a little bit, but I'm not hurting anybody. Why don't you go to some of these bums over here not doing a blessed thing? Does that sound familiar? It was a lie, of course. I wasn't doing that good a job. I wasn't faithful to those classes every day. There were times when I was in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning I shouldn't have been. But what I get is a geographical cure removal before I know what that is. Now, if you don't know what that is, I'll explain that to you. The alcoholic, because of his drinking, fouls up his nest so bad that he decides he can't stay there anymore. It smells too bad. Or people are too, So he moves. The only trouble is he moves himself when he moves. And pretty soon that new nest is just as fouled up as the one he has left. But he thinks for a while it's going to be better. Well, I didn't know any of that. The boss gave me a geographical cure removal. To the Cumberland Gap area. I never come up this close to Knoxville that I don't get the shakes and the chills. Because I used to come through, I never told this before, come through Chattanooga regularly, and you all had open stores in those days. I don't remember now, don't know you got them now, it doesn't make any difference. But I'd stop right down there, as much money as I had, that's how much whiskey I bought to go back to Kentucky, because it was dry up there. Anyhow, I got to set to where Kentucky, Virginia, and Tennessee come together, the Cumberland Gap area. And I knew at that time it was a disaster. The first morning I was there, the priest I was succeeding said, you take your meals over at Aunt Sally Coon's. I said, who is Aunt Sally Coon? Well, she lives next door. That's your house. Her husband is a Catholic, Uncle Albert. She's a member of the Lottie Moon Circle. But you are riding the circuit so much that you're very seldom home. So when you're home, that's where you eat. We go over for breakfast to Aunt Sally Coon's. We get in there, and seated at the kitchen table is Uncle Albert in his 60s, lovely old Catholic gentleman. The other priest, me, Uncle Albert's son, who's a state trooper, 35. All he got on past shorts. His oldest son, 18. Another one over here, 16. The ladies were standing at the stove, Well, conversation was difficult. A big tumbler of water sitting there in front of me. I picked the thing up and took 2 great big swallows. You all have seen the atomic bomb blast. My eyeballs turned over. My eardrums went in and out. I couldn't breathe. I'm convinced again, if I hadn't been an alcoholic, I would have screamed bloody murder. But I don't say a word. I hold on till the siege passes, and I notice Albert's got one, the other priest has got one, the trooper's got one. Well, after breakfast, we were stepping high over the weeds going back to the church. And I said to that priest, in God's holy name, what was in that glass? He said, moonshine, 120 proof. I said, for breakfast? He says, anytime you can get it. Wasn't that a glorious place to send a budding alcoholic? And I bloomed. I can't go through it, but y'all live in these parts of the world. You know about the frog eyes. I learned that, when you got it, you didn't know whether it was good or bad. When you go find the finest mahogany table you can, you pour it out, you light it, you blow it out. If it doesn't hurt the finish, it won't hurt you. I mean, I'm an expert. I was an expert. Oh, Lord, I progress. And in a few years, I'm called back to Cullman as dean of the school. By this time, I think I'm really into it. I've got to have it now. I don't have to drink it every day, but I got to have it. I really do. I got to know it's in that closet in case of steak bite. Or maybe I want to celebrate something like Hungarian Freedom Fighters Day. I don't have to about it. I have to have it there. I really do. That's spooky, Ordinary drinkers, they don't have to. If you got it, you got it. If you haven't, you haven't. That's all. But me, I got to have it. And again, I'm drinking periodically as much as I can, as often as I can. Again, apparently a tremendous capacity at that time. But it's not long before these terrible personality clashes are building again. And this time, I'm sure the boss knew that alcohol was in the picture. This time, there was no way that he didn't know it. But again, how about you Al-Anons? Do you remember the desperation? What do we do with a place like that? What do you do? He never faces me with it, but I get another geographical cure removal. This time to the delta of the Mississippi. Now, if y'all think the delta of the Mississippi begins in southwest Louisiana, you're mistaken. It begins in the lobby of the old Peabody Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. And it goes down the river 40 miles on the Mississippi side, 20 miles on the Arkansas side, you come to Yazoo City. And if y'all didn't live in the delta, you don't know what the South is. They don't know the Civil War was lost. They don't even know it was fought and couldn't care less. This was the long, hot summers of 1960. Dry. Glory be to God, I thought I had come to paradise. Pick up the telephone and say, Mamie? She'd say, be right there, Father. Father Malachi tells me when I tell you that story to be sure you know that Mamie was the bootlegger. Not about you all, but I had so much trouble with the empty bottle. Ramona's famous for saying, and I quote, that's not my story, she says, if you all think you had trouble hiding the empty bottles, you should have tried to hide the alcoholic. Every time I opened the closet, it was full of empty bottles. And I said, where'd they come from? I couldn't drink that much whiskey. Somebody's put them in here. And here I was in Mississippi, and Mamie would come and take the dead soldiers out and give them decent Christian burial, put in full bottles, and send you a bill at the end of the month. Man, I thought I'd come to paradise. Except I was coming apart at the seams. Just like it says in the big book. I was coming apart spiritually. I was coming apart emotionally and mentally. God knows. By this time, priests are saying to me, hey, Father Henry, 40 hours devotion over there in Leland, you couldn't drive home. We had to bring you home. You better watch the drinking. Maybe you're drinking a little bit too much. It was the cheese. The blackouts are coming again. People are beginning to talk ugly. Dear Lord. We think nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. His wife knows. His children know. His dog knows. But he doesn't know. Or at least he won't admit it. He's the last one to admit it. 3 of the finest men I ever know in the parish came to me And they said, Father Henry, we love you very much. You've done a great job in this parish, but there's no way that you can deny that on such and such occasions you had too much to drink in public, which was a euphemistic way of saying you were falling down drunk. And they said, we're not going to the bishop because, listen to this, we know that with a little willpower, some prayer, and the grace of the sacraments, you can get on top of this. And I believed them, the more fool I. What willpower? The first step in this program of recovery is we were powerless over alcohol, our lives had become unmanageable. What sacraments? God forgive me. I couldn't, the burden of guilt, I could hardly stand in a pulpit on a Sunday anymore. I knew that something was wrong. How can I stand up and tell these people how to lead godly lives when I knew what was happening in my own life? And prayer. At one time I knew how to pray, but alcohol had robbed me of that. In my last days of alcoholism, the only prayer I knew how to say was, listen to this one, Dear God, get me out of this and I'll never do it again. And I'm in. And my sponsor, Juby, said, oh, hell, Father Henry, God ain't no horse trader. He don't need your damn horses. And you think that one over. Step 3 in our program says, made a decision to turn our lives and our wills over the care of God has been said. It's not a quid pro quo thing. I don't say, dear God, you do this and I'll do that. That's not what it says. No. What it says is I stand up and I say, I'm helpless. I can't do anything anymore. I am just helpless. I have had it. I throw up my arms and I fall into the merciful hands of a loving God. But I wasn't through yet. It was at that time, anybody beside me lose the cars? Where did you put the automobile? I don't know where I put the automobile. Where's the car? It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the parish. It costs $5. Where's the automobile? I don't know where the automobile is. What did you do? I don't know what I did with it. Normal people don't lose automobiles. I haven't lost an automobile since I've been in AA. You think it's funny? It wasn't funny then. We had a new boss at Cullman, Dan Yankee. He doesn't know a blessed thing. He turned out to be my savior and is today one of my greatest friends. He came into Cullman, St. Bernard. They're looking for a new president of the college. And some benighted members of the Board of Trustees nominated me. And he came over to interview me at Mississippi. I thought he'd heard about, he would come over to give me, Man, I had a dinner that just wouldn't quit. Drinks before, 3 wines with, drinks after. I didn't touch a thing. Never stopped. Next morning, he's going on to Dallas. I said to his aide-de-camp, what's the boss want over here? Oh, he said, didn't he speak to you last night? No more than that. I said, no. Well, he said, you've been nominated as president of the college. And he decided before he acted on the nomination, he better come over and interview you. Said he told me last night he was well satisfied he was going to accept the nomination. You know what? I got nominated. I got the bid for the 7th president of St. Bernard College. If I had any doubts about the insanity of this program, I would have no doubts after that. Any sane man with my track record would have said, thank you, no, I cannot do that. Not with what I've been through and what's happening in my life. But what does this egotistical, arrogant alcoholic say? Of course I'll be president. You don't think they'd be asking a drunk to be president of a college? That'll show these people whether or not I've got a problem with drinking. They gave me a glorious send-off. I know today they were saying, thank God he's gone. Well, again, thank God, because of this program, I've been able to go back to Mississippi and make amends. First of all, to those three men. One of them gone to glory, but all three of them. I can go back to Mississippi and hold up my head today because of this glorious program. When I became president of the college, I got news for you. If you really want to get in a job where you can practice alcoholism, get to be president of the college. I'm telling you. You can get a reputation for being a marvelous host. Because, you see, I would always serve the drinks. I wouldn't let anybody serve them. That way I'd get 3 by the time you got 2. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. That lasted for about 3.5 years. And it was down, down, down. Oh, I would take resolutions. I read once I won't tell you the name of the book, and this is the truth. It said, you can't get drunk on beer. I thought, that's the solution. I won't drink anything but beer from now on. And I didn't. But you know what? Hillary Draper can get drunk on beer. It just takes longer, and I have to stay closer to the commode. And I wrote that professor an article and told him so, too. He never answered me. But it was down, down, down. The lying. Don't talk to me about high bottom and low bottom drunks. You get as low as you want to go. It's just the hallucinations, the shakes. You can laugh about this fan. I try not to use it. When I was in alcoholism, I used to shake and have the hot flashes. I just get the hot flashes now. I don't shake. Look at that hand. But I'm grateful that I don't shake. I'll bear with the hot flashes. But the not being able to sit down, not being able to stand up, the running fits. Do you remember those? And you know, they're not pleasant things to talk about, really. You know, well, I can put it this way. In our group in Cullman, when we have a closed meeting, where we get to laughing too much. You see, laughter is part of the recovery in this program. When a new person comes in, he's not laughing. And you know what we got to laugh about. There's nothing for him to laugh about. But you let him stay in that club room 6 to 8 weeks, and one night he'll go, ha-ha. And when he does, you'll know he's getting better. You don't laugh at me. AA teaches me the ultimate humility to be able to laugh at myself. And when that happens, then you can come laugh with me. And we can laugh together as we have cried together. Well, when we get around the table and we get to laughing too much, Juby will say, all right, let's not forget the vomit. You know, sometimes I begin to feel sorry for myself, and I think on a feast day when all the monks have got a glass of wine, you know, really too bad you can't have that glass of wine. I'll say, don't forget the vomit. And I can stare it right in the eye. Don't forget the vomit. Oh, dear God, for me. There came a day in 1967, December, when the president of the college was to make a State of the Union message in front of everybody who was important, the Board of Trustees, the Senior Council, the Student Government Association, the Faculty Senate, at a supper. I made that speech. The only thing is, the last thing I remember was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was taking one more drink to steady my nerves. That did it. Figuratively, I had slit my throat from ear to ear. The next morning, when I was walking around campus, I noticed the atmosphere was a little cool. You know how the alcoholic is, throwing dust all the time, keep things confused. I heard a great description once that I liked. It said, a man once was hired to transport 3 tons of canaries from Birmingham to Chattanooga, and he only had a 2-ton truck. So he hired an alcoholic, and he put him in the back of the truck, and he says, you must keep exactly 1 ton of canaries in the air at all times. Only an alcoholic would take a job like that. And that was me. I had 1 ton of canaries that had to stay in the air at all times. The other 2 tons sat down. Well, I was throwing these canaries around, went in to see the boss, and he told me to sit down. And he said that they'd had a Board of Trustees meeting. I was a member of the Board of Trustees, cunning, baffling, powerful. I thought I couldn't fire myself. I said, I wasn't notified. He said, no, but we had a quorum. I said, what was the agenda? He said, one thing, and bold, brassy, nasty. I said, what was it? He said, your resignation. And he didn't say it that way. He said it was pain, sorrow, sympathy. Me, and I said, when is it effective? In June? He said, it's effective right now. We've drawn up a statement. Please sign here. He said, we've had all of you we can stand. You have done your best to drag your own good name through the mud. You have disgraced this college. You have upset this community. You've torn us apart. We don't have to put up with you, and we don't intend to. You get out of here, and you get away from here. We don't want you anymore. That's the truth. I don't know whether I can make you understand what that said to me. The two things I love the most in life, namely my priesthood and St. Bernard, were gone that day, as far as I knew. You didn't sue bishops in those far-off days like you might do today, Lisa. He says, I'll help you get a job any place in the country. You're a good teacher, but you cannot stay here. Thank God he didn't leave me there. He said to me, but what I wish you'd do is go somewhere and get some help with your drinking problem. He doesn't even know the word alcoholism. I used to wonder. I couldn't have said no to that first part. I was a lost ball in the high weeds. I was gone. My priesthood was gone. St. Bernard was gone. I could have said no to the second part. Go somewhere and get some help with your drinking problem. I said yes. I used to wonder what let me catch the moment of grace, because I'm convinced it was for me the moment of grace. I'm convinced that if I had said no, I would not be alive today, or if I were alive, I'd be derelict, because I couldn't have stood the burden of guilt. I couldn't have stood. I've come to the conclusion, though, that if I was able to say yes that day, and I was, it was because of all the magnificent and beautiful Al-Anons who had loved me so desperately and who knew nothing to do for me except to pray. And therefore I love Al-Anon today as much as I do AA. I got sent to a treatment center, a place called Hazelden up in Minnesota. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what they did to you. I didn't know whether they cut something out of you, stuffed something in you, turned your head around, put your thumb in your mouth. I don't know. I never heard of AA. I did hear of it, I have to say that, but I didn't know what they did. I know that there are what I call gold-plated south traps that will take you in, take your money, drag you out, induce you to the pills, and tell you to run again. There's no such thing as an AA treatment center. There are treatment centers that use this blessed program. And AA, Hazelden was one of those. 8 out of 10 of the doctors, the counselors, the nurses were recovering alcoholics themselves. And all they did in that time, in 21 days, was to introduce you to the 12 steps of the program. You had 3 meetings a day, morning, noon, and night. Second day I was there, the man said to me, now, Father Henry, take off that Roman collar, because you ain't no priest. They talk so ugly up there. He was right. I'd been thrown out of the priesthood. But there I was, my Roman collar on, pretending still, something I wasn't anymore. He says, last time I called you Father, because you ain't. He says, don't plan on 3 weeks for this program. I said, of course not. I reckon I'll get it in 2. He says, oh no, we mean the other way. It takes much longer for people like you, ministers, priests, doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, undertakers, salesmen, college teachers. It takes much longer for you people to get this simple program. I said, why? He said, because you people keep up such a dreadful facade, a dreadful front. It takes a long time to get behind that and find out where the real Father Henry lives. And they were right. For a long time, I wouldn't do nothing. They told me to read the big book. I thought to myself, be damned if I will. And that's the truth. I hate to tell you that, but that's my attitude. You know? They said, you know, all you got to do is a willingness. I didn't have that even. They didn't fuss with me. But after a while, it began to dawn on me that the people there who were getting out were working step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And while nobody said anything to me, my mind was beginning to be restored. And it dawned on me that if I didn't work step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I would be in Hazleton until Gabriel blew his horn. So in desperation, I began to read the big book. And I began to take those steps. And they were right. I don't know. I was there. We had 3 meetings a day, 7 days a week. That's 21 meetings in a week. If I was there 8 weeks, that's 8 times 1 is 8. I have 168 meetings. I think I was there 9 weeks, but bringing close to 200 meetings in the first 40 or 50 days I was dry. I'm a great believer in going to meetings. Believe me. I'm convinced I needed every one of them. I'm beginning to work those steps, you know, and oh dear, they tell me, you haven't got the first step yet. Go back and read some more. I said, I got it. I admit I'm an alcoholic. But you got the wrong attitude. They were right. I didn't get the first step for a year, really. Oh, I got it up here. But I didn't get it down here where it really counts until I got to Cullman and the master teachers went to work on me. I remember one time that Hazleton, they stood up there, about 120 of us, every walk in life. I mean that. I'm not going to tell you some of the crazy things I was doing. It's enough. You had enough, and I'm not going to tell you anymore. The third step, I was so glad to meet God again. I could get sentimental over that. But the God I had been given was a tender, loving, merciful God, given to me by tender, loving, merciful people. And I'd lost him because of alcoholism. And AA gave back to me. It's that simple. And I was so glad to find him again. I really was. And I'm still glad. That fourth step. I made a searching and fearless moral inventory. I took it to the man. He says, oh, hell, you've made another mistake. You've gone and taken an immoral inventory. He says, moral means you put down the good and the bad. I said, I don't know any good. He says, didn't you love your mother? I said, yes. He said, put it down. I got to the fifth step. Admitted to God, to myself, to another human being, the exact nature of my life. I did it. Now pay attention. I've just taken the fifth step, and this good man, and by the way, it was a Dominican who took it for me, or who let me take it with him. And that good priest looked at me and he said, now, Father Hillary, if you really believe that alcoholism is a disease, when you go back to Cullman, are you going to tell people that you're an alcoholic? I said, of course not. It's the stupidest question I ever heard. In the South, we don't run around with a big sign, watch out for me, I got tuberculosis. A man goes to the hospital in the South, we'll ask you what he's in there for, that's his business. No, I'm not going to tell him. And furthermore, you know I can't go back to Cullman. Mind you, I told you the things I love the most are the priesthood and St. Bernard, and they're both at Cullman. You can see how much I've learned. I can't go back to Cullman, says I. He says, why can't you go back to Cullman? Says the Dominican. I said, you know why I can't go back to Cullman? He says, why can't you go back to Cullman? Well, you running around with women. I just told my fifth step. I said, no. He said, did you embezzle the college's money? I said, no. He said, well, why can't you go back to college? I said, because I was drunk in public, because I disgraced my own name, I dragged the name of the college, the priesthood. He said, Father Henry, stop. He said, when are you going to quit running? He said, the bank president in Cullman might have lost his job because of the disease of alcoholism. 9 times out of 10, he'd have to go back, not as president, but to pick up the pieces. When are you going to quit running? I said, all right, I'll go back to Cullman. Now, you convinced the board of trustees to let me come back to Cullman. Gee. Because in the past, we have had priests who had this disease. We didn't know what it was. If we somehow or another could get them dried out, you never let them return to the scene of the crime. You send them to New Mexico, Utah. Go west, young man, go west. You know that as well as I do, Hussein. And here these blessed people say, you go back to Cullman. I said, you convinced the board of trustees. You know what? He did, they did, and I did. I came back to Cullman. Oh, boy. And what, in a nutshell, because I'm almost finished now, what am I like today? I'm trying to be honest. I'm trying to live a day at a time. I'm I'm trying not to run away from any problem which is really mine, but I am refusing to accept other people's problems. AA has taught me that. What have I been like? I'm not so afraid anymore. Do you remember those nameless fears? And I think human nature is prone to them, but in alcoholism, man, they get big. And it's AA that taught me that fear is replaced by faith. As much theology as I studied, I never got that hooked up right. It took AA to hook it up for me. That these fears give way to faith. That this higher power has seen me through today. There's no reason to expect he won't see me through tomorrow if I put my hand out and ask him to take it. I remember as I'd been in the group about 2 years, sitting around the table one night, this is the truth. I said to the Cullman group, I'm tired of this, I want to know something. Here I've been dry and sober over 2 years. And what I want to know is if I don't manage my own life, who's going to manage it? Then again, that great silence that comes over the group when everybody knows the answer. And Juby says again, well, Paul, the third step said made a decision to turn our lives. And he says there's another step that says sought through prayer and meditation. I said, for God's sake, stop. Don't tell anybody I asked. Here I am, a trained theologian, an eminent divine, and I got to come to you drunks to learn theology. Now, I'm not making that up. What I'm telling you that for is that I believe, honestly, that alcoholism carries with it a kind of spiritual blindness that we cannot see, and that AA brings with it light as well as life and all the joys that go with life. Well, my sponsor, who's gone to glory now, also told me that I had to tell you another thing. In 1972, my birthday in AA is January the 14th, 1968. And by the grace of God and this program, I've not found it necessary to take a drink of alcohol or a mood-changing drug a day at a time since then. In 1972, the monks of St. Bernard elected me as the seventh abbot of the Abbey and Chancellor College. That's what these gold chains and rings are all about. That says something very special to me about the monks of St. Bernard. On that day when the senior monks were electing the juniors who had no vote, waiting round the hill, excitement. When they waited around the election hall that Father Henry was elected, they ran up and down the halls of the monastery in Luzerne shouting, all the way with AA. So they have learned how to accept and to be supportive. I'm going to tell you a story and quit. With many thanks to many people who are here who have meant something in my sobriety. Again, because of this blessed program, some years ago I had the marvelous opportunity of spending some time in the Holy Land. And we went to the home of Martha and Mary in Bethany. Do you remember in the scriptures, Bethany is a short distance from Jerusalem, but it looks as if when Jesus was really tired, worn out, that he'd go down and spend a weekend in Bethany with Martha and Mary and Lazarus. They were his great friends. He's out on his mission preaching, and the word comes to him that Lazarus is very sick, very ill. And I'm sure that Martha and Mary both expected this rabbi, who had been such a wonder worker, to come. But he doesn't go. The disciples tell him Lazarus is awful bad off. And I think they're trying to say, you remember all the chicken we've ate up there at their house, and maybe we better get down there and see what we can do about it. Nothing happens. Lazarus is dead. Not only is he dead, he's buried. And where's that hotshot rabbi? The scriptures tell us that Jesus with the disciples went down to Bethany. And evidently Martha's been looking for him. Because the scriptures say very clearly that Martha spied him coming down the road. And she hot-footed it out to get him. Now you have to hear these words. I believe Martha, with all the resentment and the meanness and the scorn, looks at Jesus and she says, Rabbi, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. And Martha don't know how close she can tear the whole sheet, you know. But she's talking to infinite love, infinite confidence, infinite understanding. And he says, thy brother will live again. And all of a sudden, Martha's changed. Maybe she has a spiritual experience because she says, yes, Lord, I know. At the last day. And Jesus goes on into the house, comforts the mourners, and then he says he wants to go out to the cemetery. And they take him out. I went there. It's a cave. They had a great stone rolled in front of the door of the cave, as was the custom. And he says, roll the stone back. And Martha's back in her character again. She says, Lord, he's dead 4 days. He stinks. Ladies and gentlemen, I suggest that I certainly did stink. But I surely do know what Lazarus felt like when he walked out of that tomb. Thank you very much. Just say one other thing. Sure. He asked me, and I don't want to interrupt his thought, but there were 2 people whom I particularly wanted to recognize. He said if there were any out-of-town guests. There are 2 in-town guests here who mean a great deal to me. One is Father Luzerne S., who was a student of mine many years ago, and the Dominican father sitting next to him, both who are pastors of your own St. Jude's Catholic Church. I'm grateful for their presence.
God does still work miracles today. Thank you, Father Yorin. Thank you, Ramona. I'm just a little bit full. And I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for making it possible for me to be sober today. I'm going to ask Hank to come up and do the chip system for me, if you would.
Hi, everybody. I'm Hank, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Hank.
And for Ramona, I'm a transplanted Okie from Wewokie. Thank you, Father Ellery. You know, certainly what he said that, at least for me, is admitting that you're an alcoholic. And then following through and doing something about it is like walking out of the darkness into the sunshine. And it takes a hell of a lot of guts. And that's what I'm going to tell you about right here. If you'd like to try this new way of life, this life of sobriety, and to learn to grow a day at a time in this fellowship, we suggest that you take a white chip. You carry this white chip for 90 days. At the end of 90 days, if you haven't taken a drink, you exchange it for a red one. Then you carry this red one for an additional 90 days. If you still haven't taken a drink, you exchange it for a blue one. And you carry this blue one for 6 months, or like some of them say, till hell freezes over. And at that time, these 3 chips will represent that you have 365 days of sobriety, 1 day at a time. At that time, we'll have a birthday party with a cake and a medallion or a cigarette lighter of your choice, and a lot of hugging and kissing and some real good fellowship. Is there anybody here who would like to start this program and pick up a white chip? Anybody who would like to exchange a white one for a red one? A red one for a blue one? If you've got a birthday coming up, let Jack or Janet know. Thank you.
You know, I'm one of those Baptists. Every time we meet, we take up a collection. And no fees and dues in AA, but we'll take your money if you don't give it.
You know, the Jews don't pass the hats. You've heard about the rabbi that visits the Catholic Church, they pass collections over, and he says, how did 13 smart businessmen let a deal like this get out of their heads?